are starting. Let me check if. Okay. I have so many windows open up, like tabs. I'm not sure which I'm clicking on. Okay, let's close it down. Close down this. Okay. I will also share the itch.io page, the chat, so people can check it out. You don't have a Steam page, right? You don't have a Steam page.
Yeah, I don't have any, actual game releases.
Okay. No, I checked your itch.io page. Just I wasn't sure if you have any Steam page or not. But it's okay.
That's why I was surprised that you reached out to me.
Yeah,
because, I don't really have any published work.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm interested in.
Reached out to me.
Yeah,
because, I don't really have any
I just checked the audio. Sorry, my voice stopped. So yeah, answering to your sentences that I reached out to you because like I said, I care about people who are making games, even if like they're not releasing their games to Steam or any like more. I wouldn't say like popular because each is popular too. So like to more common, let's say, platforms. So yeah, let me know, by the way, Polycube, if we can start. Let me know.
Yeah, sure. We can start at any time.
Okay.
But also, the games on itch are like more like game jam games than actual releases. So like they are not really a work that I'm super proud of. Just.
Okay. So welcome everyone in the very new episode of my Dev Live show. Today I'm joined with Polycube, who is working on a lot of games, and he also released some games to his itch.io page. First of all, I would like to say that I'm very thankful and very honored that you joined us for today's episode of my Dev Live show. And like I'm always saying, let's start with a little bit of introduction. So please introduce yourself for us.
Well, let me just say that I am the one being honored here because I really appreciate that you took notice of my work and that you genuinely enjoy the work I do. Like it doesn't happen often to me. I've been sharing my stuff online for like over 3 years now, and been getting a lot of support recently. So I really appreciate for the 2 people that enjoy my work, that check out my work. It really gives me a lot of motivation to keep going. So yeah, thank you for reaching out to me.
You're welcome, and thank you that you joined us.
So about myself, I'm 17 and I'm from Poland.
Okay.
I've been making games for like 3 years now.
Okay.
But like I actually started when I was like around 11, I think. But like it was just messing around. There was no actual game development, just me fumbling around in a program. So I don't really know what more I can say. I'm making like a little Steam game. I plan to release on Steam now.
Okay.
So yeah, that's been going great. I've been getting a lot of support on Twitter after showcasing my work. So yeah, it's been going great.
Nice. Thank you for that. So my very first question would be, what was your very first contact with video games as a player, if you remember those times of your past?
In like my early childhood, I didn't
let's say early childhood.
Much contact with games. Like my parents were really strict about me playing games.
Okay.
So I didn't necessarily play games.
I see.
The first game I remember vividly playing was this thing on like a really old PC we had on like an MS-DOS thing. Like my dad would type in some magic stuff in the console, and there would be this game called Incredible Machine. Maybe you heard of it?
Yes.
It's just like a game you can like place around stuff that triggers each other. I don't know, I really enjoyed that. That's the first game I really remember playing. I was like maybe like 6 back then or something. Also, I had another PC where we had where a friend of my dad gave me like a CD copy of Worms Armageddon.
Oh,
so when I would do well in school and stuff, or like go to the doctors and not make a fuss about it. I would, get to play it with my dad. It was really a fun experience, a really fun game. I have it in my Steam library to this day, and just, keep playing this. It's really good.
Nice. Lovely stories. Thank you for sharing those stories of your childhood. I appreciate that. So from that point of your life, I was wondering how the whole game development life started for you. So what was that light bulb moment for you in your life that you realized that, hey, I love playing video games, but I would also like to work on video games and make my own video games and release them. So what was that moment in your life and how it happened to you?
Well, as I said, I didn't used to play much games, just really, really sparingly, let me just say. So I mostly watched like Let's Plays on YouTube when I discovered that. Like every kid, I was like, really back into, really into FNAF back then. It was, a really big thing. And when there's this fan game, it was called The Joy of Creation by Nixon. Like he's developing a remake of it, I believe now on Steam. And like I really vividly remember this like one couch level where you like are in your living room, ducking down behind the sofa, hiding from stuff. And I really wanted to recreate that. Like I was like, oh my gosh, I will make that. I want to make this. So I had this like a really ancient piece of software now. It was called Wings 3D. Maybe you know it. Like it's a really primitive 3D modeling tool. And I found some tutorials on how to model this sofa. So I've just been keeping modeling this sofa over and over. I was just, really, really into that because it stuck in my mind so much. It was like in the third grade, of like elementary school. And I kept telling everyone, like, guys, I'm making a game. Like, I'm making my actual
You will be
game.
the one, right?
Yeah, but it's actually just a couch all along. So yeah, also around that time, there was this game, Hello Neighbor, maybe you know it. Like looking back at it, it's like it's not really a good game, but for me, I was really inspired by it. Like I looked up what engine it was made in and discovered it was Unreal Engine. So that's where my journey with Unreal really started. I really wanted to recreate Hello Neighbor, so I tried and tried. It was nothing special really. I didn't even watch any tutorials. I was just moving around the editor, placing stuff, playing with the default templates and stuff. So yeah, actual like dev work I started when I got my own PC like 3 years ago. That's when I actually logged in and started actually looking into the engine, watching some tutorials and stuff, participating into in-game jams. So that's the point I can say that really started my game dev journey, but I've been, really fond of making games and trying to when I was really little.
I see. Thank you for that. So, switching back to a more personal ground of topics and questions, were your parents, close friends, and family supportive, or family members supportive about this decision of yours that you're starting this, let's say, passion, hobby, or in the future, maybe career of yours with game development? How do you feel about it? And if your answer is yes, even if your answer is no, do you feel like it is important for you to have this mentally supportive background around yourself in order to chase your dreams or chase your passion, let's say?
Well, my dad is really supportive about it. Like he was and still is supportive about it. He really liked the fact that instead of playing games, I was making them.
I see.
So he really supported and pushed me towards it. Like he's a graphic designer himself.
Oh, okay.
And he's really into that stuff. So he understands what it is. He kind of has an idea of what I'm doing. And yeah, he's been really supportive of me in general. My mom has also been really supportive, but she's not really technical, so she doesn't really know what I'm talking about. But yeah, I think they are really proud of what I do. They think that what I do is cool, and they hope I will make a future with this.
I see. By the way, speaking, you mentioned that your dad is understanding what you're doing. Do you feel like if a person understands what is game development, that they will be more supportive about these decisions of their, for example, kids or their relative if they are doing game dev. Do you think that's the thing around this topic that helps people be more supportive about like this passion of anyone?
Well, I think games are getting less and less of this old stigma that games are bad. I think they are really making their way to become the new art form.
Okay.
Just as films and TV were considered
I agree with
evil
that,
and bad back then, they are now socially accepted as a good thing and an art form. I think the same is happening with games. The more times go on, I think it's just more being more embraced in society. There's more gamers than ever. So I think it's just a matter of time before it becomes a thing that everyone accepts you can do.
True. I agree with that.
And it's not unusual.
Yeah. Throughout the process, by the way, of making games on your own, what was your favorite part of the process, or parts, if there are more parts of the process itself of making the games that you are making now and that you made already?
I think everyone agrees with this, but I think the beginning part is the most exciting.
Okay.
You just start up the project, you got all these new fresh ideas, you start prototyping, and just so fun, throw ideas at the wall, seeing what sticks. It's a really drastic comparison to the middle section of the project when you actually need to add content and just push through. This is where most developers quit and just stop working on their game because it's really hard to keep going on this one project. So yeah, I just really enjoyed the prototyping part, the beginning idea phase where you just plan out everything and then prototype. It's just really fun. I could do this all day long, but now I'm just just stuck in this content hell and can't really move forward. I need to make strict schedules and plans for myself. So I'm just in this the worst part of game development right now.
I see. I wanted to ask, but you already answered my next question, is that what's the most challenging part throughout the process of making your games? Is there any addition to this question as an answer?
I definitely think that the content hell, that's how I call it. It's the middle section of making every game. It's just where you actually need to make the game, actually to add the content.
I just think really about it. Or plan.
Yeah, it's just really mundane task because it's really just repeating the same stuff over and over. I'm just adding items to my game right now, and it's just really mundane to add all the items. It's just increasing some stats, adding some active items here and there. It's just really a lot of copy and pasting. I really dislike this process. I don't think the middle is really the most fun part. At the beginning you see the initial thrill of making the game, and at the end you also see the end of the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
So it's more of a hill you need to go down and climb back up to actually finish the game.
True, very true. You mentioned this topic of some people are giving up in the middle part of their journey as game developers. What helped you push through these times and still helps you push through these times?
Well, I think it's just the general support of people. I've been posting my stuff online recently, and it's been getting a lot of traction for me, especially because I've never been getting so much attention. And it's really been amazing to me. I've been receiving replies, DMs, people saying, "Wow, this is amazing. Where can I play it?" And "Wow, really? You want to play this game?" I'm really amazed by this. It really keeps me going because we are humans, we are social creatures.
Sure.
We need other people to appreciate us, to feel like we matter, to push forward.
Very true.
Anyone saying they don't need other people are just lying, because it's just a human psyche. We need other people to appreciate us and to,
especially in art, in any form of art, right?
Yeah. I mean, in really any human thing in general.
True,
We
true.
just need to be accepted.
True. That's what we are striving for, even if we don't speak about it out loud. Yeah, I agree. Since you have been working on a lot of like HIO games and you are planning to release a Steam game as well, my next question would be how hard or how easy it is for you to leave the past project of yours behind and start a new one. Since you mentioned that your favorite part is the beginning process of making games, but how hard or how easy it is for you to move on from your past project to a very new one?
Well, they are not really my best projects, This just game jam games, but I really actually enjoy game jams because you don't need to, polish it really hard. You don't need, I mean, you need to polish it hard, but you don't need to add a lot of content to it. It just, working under pressure is really good for me. Like, I can lock in for like 3-4 days, 2 days, and just, pump out this game. While compared to making an actual game, it takes you like months, years.
True.
It needs a prolonged period of time.
You lose motivation,
for it to set in. So games are really great. There is GMTK upcoming recently. I'm of course going to be doing that. I've been doing everyone since 2021, I think. It's a really fun challenge. I really appreciate making game jams. I'm teaming up with my friend to do music, and it's just a fun collaborative experience to throw ideas at each other and make something great out of the only 3 days you're given.
True.
So I wouldn't say they are the best projects I abandoned, but I definitely abandoned a lot of projects in the past. I had a lot of ideas, but like, as I was saying, a lot of developers give up in the middle in the middle part where actually the thrill of starting the new project wears out. And that happened to me a lot, So with this project, I'm really trying to, push myself further. Just, not trying to abandon it at parts I think that are hard, but just, setting a timer for myself, telling myself, okay, work on this for like an hour, 2 hours, and then you can do anything else. But I just work on this game for 2 hours, lock in, don't do anything else. So that's been my process for some time, and it's been working, Maybe it's not the best process, the best idea to push myself like this, but I think it's a good way to not make me abandon this project and be lazy with it.
True, so, I agree. Yeah, very true. Switching back to more like personal grounds or topic of questions, I believe in this statement of mine that all of us creators who create our own craft, we tend to put our inner self into the craft we make. Even if it's about experiencing loss, love, anything positive or negative in our life. Is this statement of mine true for your work when you work on your video games? And if your answer is yes, what examples could you bring us to the table? What examples could you name?
You mean like people putting themselves in games?
Yeah, like their soul or like their past experience or like their emotions. Yes. Or even themselves.
Well, I don't really have much experience with games like this, but like I definitely see people, getting to know the characters, getting their emotions out, and making some kind of emotional bond, emotional connections with the characters, and kind of projecting themselves onto them. I think it's a important genre of games, but I'm not really into games like this. I think story games are fine. I'm just not really a big fan of story games. I just want quick fun, quick dopamine hits. But yeah, I see why people get emotionally attached to characters. It's an important part of video games in any art form, really. Like in movies where your favorite character dies.
True.
It makes you feel stuff. So yeah.
Okay.
It's kind of an art form, I would say.
True.
To pull it off.
Would you like to make in the future any of like your very personal game, though? That you mentioned that you are not putting yourself into your games till, but would you like to do it though, like in the future, like have a very personal game with your own experiences from your own life or like your own style into the games that you are making? Are you interested in that or not? Not really.
Not really. I'm not really not really, fond of the idea of just sharing my life with people.
Okay.
Like, not in case of a privacy reason, but just I don't like games like this. I don't like making them.
I see.
They are also like, really hard to pull off and require a lot of more of a writing skill than actual development.
I see.
And I'm not a good artist or a writer, so that's out of the table.
I see. No, it's fine. It's fine. I just wondering. Okay. So what's the inspiration behind your next game that you are planning to release on Steam? That FPS game that you are posting about a lot on Twitter and your other social pages. What's the inspiration? What was influencing this game of yours?
Well, this game Devil Daggers, like it's a wave shooter,
Okay.
like a really hard wave shooter, and I thought like, hey, well, what if I make this, but kind of a roguelike? I also saw that there is not a lot of FPS vampire survival like games, so like I haven't posted about it yet, but I switched my concept from like a standard roguelike to like a wave survivor, so we got the XP bar and stuff. So yeah, vampire survivors, that's my primary really inspiration, and Devil Daggers. Like, I think the mix of those two is like a really a genre that you have never seen before. There's not a lot of FPS, vampire survival likes, or at least not any good that I'm aware of. There's like this game called Bloodshed, maybe you know it, like it's a recent release that got out of early access. I saw it and I was like, yeah, let's make a vampire survivors FPS mixed with Devil Daggers. I think that's gonna be a fun combination.
I see. And what was first like for you with this game? Was it like the setting or like the gameplay? You mentioned your influence, but what was first that actually started ticking in your head and you started developing it by? Was it the setting or was it like the gameplay actually?
I primarily focus on the gameplay.
Okay.
I don't think the setting is really important that much in games.
Okay.
Like, I think games need to be fun mechanically to be considered like, fun games for me. Like, I understand people liking the setting, the story, the characters, the emotions, like you mentioned, they feel. But like, for me, games are all about just having fun mechanics, fun interactions, just having a blast, huge dopamine hits. I just like to design my games around the primary fun factor.
I see.
Like, the idea of the game changed a lot, but the primary thing I want to make sure in the first place is that the game is fun to play, is that the game is like, resonates with the one playing it, and that it's, makes them feel fun. Like, I think I'm succeeding at that. Like, I've made a few playtests with my friends and some strangers as well, and I think they genuinely feel fun. Like, I feel they actually have fun playing this game, and I'm really happy for that, because that means I'm succeeding in what I do.
True, very true. What about the art style? What was the inspiration or influence behind the actual art style of your game that you're making now?
Well, there is no art style really now. It's just some prototype cubes. But like, I'm probably mostly going with the PS1 retro style, because it's the easiest one to pull off. Like, I don't really need any art skills, and I can just hide my incompetence behind just telling that it looks retro and that it needs to.
But
be
it works, right?
like
It works most of the time nowadays.
I mean, yeah, it's a really popular style because of that. Like, it's pleasing to the eye. It's easy to make. You can hide a lot of the imperfections behind.
It's making knowledge without having knowledge, right? Or having knowledge without knowledge.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very true. Okay. What other kind of games or other genres would you like to touch, by the way, in the future? If it's not a too spoilerish question. What other genres would you like to touch?
I personally love roguelike deck builders.
Okay.
Like, Slay the Spire, Balatro, Ring of Pain, Inscription. I just love those games so much. I have hundreds of hours in those games. I absolutely adore roguelike deck builders. There's just having so much fun, about cards in games and like making fun synergies. Like, I think it's one of the hardest genres actually to pull off. I don't think I would be able to pull something like this off, because it requires less of the actual development knowledge, but more of a design choice. They are really hard to design. A good roguelike deck builder can take like actual years to perfect and make a good design of. Like Balatro is a huge phenomenon. Like it's like such a simple concept that it was so beautifully, masterfully designed that like it makes for a great game. I think those types of games are really the hardest one to design and to make. I think that the design work on those is really impactful, and the thing that really keeps me in the genre. I think that the game design of a game is really an art form of itself. It's really an important aspect. Like I think, for example, that chess is a beautiful design game. It's so thoughtfully put together. Everything has a great synergy with each other. It's really amazing how everything works in synergy, how everything depends on each other, and I really love that in making my games and making game design.
I see. Okay. What about the music part of your games that you mentioned? You are working with your friends. What about the music? How it inspires you to make your game, and how you are inspiring the music with your game and your friends with your game? Since you were talking about synergy, right?
Well, yeah, I'm just making the game first and just telling him like, yo, can you make this music for this game?
Okay.
Like, I don't think it like necessarily comes in pair. Like, I think the music is important aspect of a game, but like in a game jam, you can't really make a deliberate music, like a music that really sits well with the gameplay. You need to make the gameplay and music at the same time, so you have enough time to actually finish the game, to implement the music, implement on the effects of the music and stuff. So I don't think it really coexists at the moment, but for this game, I am trying to make more of a difference with this approach. Trying to make the music actually more in rhythm to the game, trying to make like the shots land on beat, like in BPM. Maybe you know that game.
Yeah, I know.
Like it's not necessarily a a rhythm game, but like I just feel that the soundtrack could have some like kicks every time you shoot. Like I think it's a fun little touch in the game.
True.
The music is not a part that concerns me right now. I just want to focus on fun gameplay, as I was saying, just the actual gameplay that people will experience.
I see. What was the original goal with the difficulty setting or settings for this exact game that you're developing now? How hard or how easy you would like it to have for players when they play it?
I would like to have one difficulty mode, kind of like Devil Daggers, but not so hardcore, I guess. I think everyone could, just make their own difficulty by choosing the right items in a game. I think that's what's amazing about roguelike games. I mean, there are, difficulties in roguelike games, but I think that the difficulty comes from you actually making a difficulty by selecting the items or not selecting them. It leaves the difficulty slider to the player of how hard they want to make the game. Like my game right now is an unbalanced mess. The XP is not appropriate to what you should be getting. The item upgrades are not enough for the XP you get, and the enemies are constantly spawning with no order or anything. So I'm still working on the balancing part and actual wave system. But that's what I'm aiming for, to make something hard but also kinda satisfying with the players to actually decide on what difficulty they want to be playing by selecting their own items to make the game easier.
I see. Speaking of the topic of balance, let's switch to the topic of balance now. How do you balance your own vision or having your own vision for your games, but still listening to the players' feedback? Those friends of yours and some private playtesters that played your game. How do you balance those two? And which is more important for you to prioritize?
Well, I got this, vision in my head, but I always get ideas from friends about what would be cool, what items would be fun to use. I just think that this outside perspective gives you a lot of thought into the game. Like it just, makes you think about it from an outsider perspective of how someone else reacts to your game. Uh, I think it's really important to get as much feedback as you want, as you need to, because if you are just making the game alone and not showing it to anyone, then how will you know that the game is not only fun to you? You need to actually put it out there, actually playtest it, get some feedback, and the ideas other people bring are really valuable to see maybe what you're doing wrong or what other people expect of this game. It's a really crucial thing while developing a game.
True. I almost agree with you, but on some cases I feel like nowadays, I always mention this on my dev life episodes as well, and in other territories in my life too, that I feel like via the that you mentioned and we talked about before our interview, that nowadays almost everyone is playing video games. I feel like people have way too much saying when it comes to like leaving a feedback about a game nowadays, and I feel like it's not always healthy for video games and for developers, because if they tend to listen too much and they are pushed into a corner to listen too much to the players' feedback, they might end up like making a game for the players but not for the vision, and it will end up like trying to satisfy everyone, but it's not a game for it will end up there's a quote, right, that says that like if you're trying to build a game for everyone, it will end up being a game for no one, and I believe in that. So I feel like what you have said is true, but on the other side of the same coin is like I see the negative parts of it and all the like unhealthy issues with it, because like there are a lot of games, especially nowadays, like early access games and multiplayer games, that are like pushed back because of the players' feedback. And I feel like what you said about like people having expectations is also true, but to have an additional thought about it is like there are a lot of like expectations when it comes from the player's perspective, but at the end of the day, I always ask this to myself, that do they matter that much? Because like in one hand, yes, of course you would like to play with a good game, but I always joke with this, but it's also true, like what is a good game, right? Because I feel like a good game, having this like quote or like saying of a good game, is like different to every person, really. Like for example, like you mentioned, for you the story doesn't matter about most of the video games, but you are caring more about the gameplay. So you are a person who are sticking with those games for their game design or the gameplay part. So you won't end up like cheering about like story-oriented games, which is fine, of course, right? So, but I feel like that's what people need to understand, is that there are different type of players who are expecting different things of games. But like, I think what is unfair nowadays is that people end up being on this like, in my opinion, wrong side of the coin, when they end up like being a person who, for example, like you, don't like story-oriented games, but they will leave feedback about story-oriented games, and I think it's unfair, right? What I hope that you understand what I mean. That, for example, I love story-oriented games and I love gameplay-heavy games too. But for example, I don't like sport games, and in my opinion, it won't be fair for me to leave feedback about a sport game which I don't play and I don't know what to expect from it, right? Because I don't understand the game, or I am not sticking with those games, right? So I feel like on one hand, yes, it's good to listen to the players' feedback, but on one hand, you really have to separate those players' feedback, which are, like you mentioned, valuable for the developers and which are not. Because I feel like there are a lot of like players who are like misunderstanding the vision and what it is for the player. And I've seen it a lot of times when like people, for example, judged a story-heavy game by its gameplay. And it was a story-heavy game. The gameplay did not matter that much. And there are examples vice versa too, when, for example, the gameplay mattered much and they judged the lack of the story, right? So I feel like that's a huge issue nowadays, in my opinion at least.
Well, yeah, I totally agree with you. I think I worded myself a little poorly here. yeah, I think that every opinion should be, taken with a grain of salt. Actually, like looked through if it's an actual feedback or just like, when a quick thought someone had, like, oh, that would be cool. But like it doesn't really integrate well with the other parts of the game, so you really need to, think about that first before you get any like crucial feedback or
True.
crucial change you want to
True,
make
true.
the game. But like I mostly get my feedback from my friends who are like really into the game I'm making.
Yeah,
like
that's why I
they
said
know
is
the
that they
design.
understand, and they understand also you,
Yeah,
what you
yeah.
would like to make the game. But for example, imagine there would be like a person who doesn't know that you are making a gameplay heavy game, and they would say that, hey, this game lacks of story. And yes, it lacks of story because you didn't want to put any story or story rich, story heavy like aspect into your game, right? So that's why I always say that I feel like it's a misunderstanding of the actual concept of the games nowadays from the player's perspective, because like if you don't see what developers are trying to push towards you, then you will end up having this very high expectations of like, yeah, I would like to have a cool game with story and music and everything, but yeah, at the end of the day, maybe it would be like just I don't know, a simple card game that is fun and there is no story. Then why are you like expecting story of it, right? So I think that's the unfair point of from the player's perspective, in my opinion, at least. So yeah.
Yeah, that's like, why people make fun of like PlayStation exclusives. But, like, you're basically watching an interactive film and pressing like, a button every like an hour or so. Like it's a common like, meme. But like, I mean, I kinda agree with you that like you shouldn't be voicing your opinion on a game that you do not enjoy. But
I'm not saying. I'm not
think
saying. I'm not saying. Sorry for interrupting you. I'm not saying
yeah,
you
yeah,
should
but
be
like on
voicing
games
it. It's
that you
just like,
expect of doing something
yeah,
that you didn't buy. Yeah, yeah, I mean, like it's. I think it's honestly fine if you like bought an action-heavy game with close to no story and like left feedback on it, a negative review or something, saying that you should add story. I think it's a constructive criticism, but I mean, it really varies, from a game to game. I can't really say that giving a negative review on a game
it's
for not having
constructive, but
content that was.
I agree with you. Sorry for interrupting. It's constructive in one way, but imagine like putting this to a very different like type of setting, not into video games, but for example, like actual buildings. Like for example, you're building a church, but there is like a person who would like to have their hotel, right? And he's leaving his feedback that, hey, I was expecting a hotel built here, not a church, right? So who is right about it? In my opinion, the person who wanted to build a church, because like he intentionally knew why he's building a church, right? Because he probably knew that, hey, all people here will gather around and they are in a need of a church, right? Because there are plenty of hotels and he would like to build a church, right? That's where the words or the meaning of niche comes in, right? And I think it's true for video games as well, that yes, it could be a constructive, like you said, criticism, and I agree with you. But on the other hand, it's like trying to change the actual like vision of the person who might knew why they are ending up like making that game. And I think like when you are making this objective based criticism, that they actually it's not objective, in my opinion. It's not objective based because they are trying to change the whole person by like saying that, hey, you should add story. But yes, but for example, just think of your example, like you're releasing your game and there will be like 100 players who are playing your game and bitching about, hey, where is the story? And like 1000 players enjoying your game, but only 100 saying that, hey, we are bitching about where the story comes in, right? And they might be right about it, but like we had this discussion earlier at our interview that you are not caring of adding the story, right? So why should you care because of those 100 people? Why should you force yourself to do something that you're not liking? It's like taking away your creative freedom in a way, right?
Yeah, I mean, like I think it's a tricky balance to like finding the actual valid player criticism and just some stuff they would like to seeing implemented like right now as an impulse thought. Uh, yeah, I don't think players should really criticize like a story game for not having much gameplay if the game is heavily advertised as a story game. But like on the other hand, it also can make a point to like false advertising and stuff. Like if you say that your game has both good gameplay and good story, and like players think that the gameplay is really vague, then I think it's valid to have some criticism of being misled into playing this game. But yeah, I don't think I think it really happens really not that often with games. Maybe you have different experiences with it, but I think that the general gamer audience is really accepting of stuff you put out there. They are really also caring about smaller developers, and they want to support them. So I don't think it's as scary as you make it out to be, that 100 people will just hate on you for not having a feature.
I sadly see the very other endpoints of this whole industry, because
yeah, I mean as I said, it all comes to balance, of
true
feedback you take in and what feedback you decide to leave out. You need to have some kind of a marker on the scale of what fits your vision and what doesn't, what needs to be modified to actually make the game more of itself,
Sure. I always put out this example of an actual video game as an example of the Gollum game that was rated one of the worst video games of like the past 10 years. And I always name this game as an example, since like it's tying up to the topic of this conversation now, that it was advertised as a story-heavy game, and people judged by its gameplay that it was janky, and like most people haven't even played through the story, which was like a very rich story with like perfectly connecting to the Lord of the Ring universe. It took me like 30 to 40 hours to beat the game, because it was a long-ass story and it was perfectly crafted, in my opinion. As for the story part, yes, the gameplay was a bit janky, but like the game was never advertised to be a gameplay heavy game. And people still like said that it's a bad looking game, and it's a bad game. And what's funny is that like I've spoken to a lot of people, and you can actually also like check. It's funny because you can actually check most of the journalists like Steam page or PlayStation page or Xbox achievement page. And what's funny about that these people haven't even played through the game, but they reviewed as the worst game of the past 10 years. Is it fair? In my opinion, no. Because like how can you judge a game by not playing it through for what it is, right? If it's a story heavy game and you're just playing like 1 minute of it, it's the same as you wouldn't read a book but you're judging it by its end because you have heard that it's a bad game. No, it's not. You haven't even experienced the whole package. And yes, in my opinion, it's not fair to judge something that you are not even experiencing. It's like me saying that, hey, ice cream tastes bad, and I never even had an experience, for example, with ice cream. Of course I had, it's just I'm naming a stupid example. It's not fair. Like that's what I feel like nowadays people don't understand, is that like it's okay to leave your opinion, but like first I feel like people need to understand what it is to leave an opinion. They should be at least understanding, and second, they should have experience with it. Like if you're like haven't seen a movie, why should you be criticizing a movie that you haven't seen just because someone said it's bad? Like it's stupid in my opinion. Like it's just making more hate about something that you haven't even experienced. Why? What's the point of it? Like it's just rumble, right?
I heard about the Golem game, and I disagree with you, honestly. I think the criticism of this game is actually valid, Like,
have you played it?
Games, as you
have
mentioned.
You played it?
Well, I haven't played, but I watched a lot of...
You watched.
Yeah, let me just,
watched.
I want to say, I haven't played the game, but I watched a lot
not the same,
walkthroughs of it.
It's not the same.
Yeah, let me just say that, from what I've seen, like, compared to like a story-heavy game with little gameplay, this is like a story game with little chore gameplay and a lot of, junk and bugs sprinkled in. And I think it that's what really triggers people, that like, the core of the game is not that good. Like, I also heard that the story is not that good. No
It's not
clue.
true. It's
I
not
haven't
true.
played the
It's
game.
not true. It's not true. It comes from
Well,
all the
yeah,
people who
maybe.
haven't played it. Like there are some good reviews about the game. I can tell you. You should look. You should be on the lookout after this interview and try to search about like all the reviews. And there are. I promise you, there you will find some actual like very like objective based reviews about the game where they are telling you that yes, this game was made to experience a story and not the gameplay, and that's why like people misunderstand the whole concept of it, and there are so many examples of like these games. Watch Dogs was a very good example of that too. Like Watch Dogs was criticized for its graphics because like I remember like Ubisoft released the trailer and the game did not look like that, and I remember people
that's
hated
more
it.
of a case of false advertising than actual.
Yes. But then people loved it. Cyberpunk was the same. Cyberpunk was hated by most of the players, and then when the anime came in and they fixed all the bugs, suddenly everyone started to like Cyberpunk. Even those people who were never into video games just because of the anime from Netflix. So it's unfair. It's unfair in my opinion because like it's in my opinion, like I said before, it's not fair to judge something that you do not experience. Like it's the same with people between each other. How can you say that this person is a dickhead just because someone told you he is a dickhead or she is a dickhead, right? It's not fair. Like it's just moral thing. It's not about like, I don't know, is it good or bad? It's just a moral thing. And I feel like nowadays what we are missing of like having opinions about anything in general or anyone is the moral thing. It's like you mentioned, you haven't played the game. Imagine people not playing your game and saying your game sucks. Would that be fair in your opinion?
Oh, well, yeah, like I agree for the most part, but I think like players voicing their criticism of a game should be, valid, I think. Like compared to other story games, Golem.
Yeah, but why would you compare? Yeah. But you mentioned at the very beginning that it's not fair comparing because like every game is like a standalone in its own way, right? You mentioned it yourself. Then why would you like to suddenly compare a story game to another game? Like every game that's their own game, their own vision. Like why would you like to compare, for example, a Lord of the Ring universe themed game, for example, with a Shrek game? It's way different, right? It has way different values, like, or even like to compare with the Star Wars game. It's way different. Like you cannot, in my opinion, just because you put games into boxes that, hey, this is a story game, this is a gameplay heavy game, this is a RPG, this is like a, you cannot really compare. Like we as humans end up comparing because like we do that all the time, yes, but I feel like it's still like not fair. Like I don't know.
You compared like the Golem game to like eating an ice cream and like not liking an ice cream, but like let me just like make another comparison to this. So like imagine if you're like eating an ice cream and like there are flies in this ice cream, so like there is some kind of a friction between you like tasting the ice cream, the story, and the gameplay that like kind of puts it all together. So there is, I think the criticism comes from this friction of the game being so buggy on launch and so junky with the actual gameplay that it overshadowed the story bits of the game. I think that's really what happened because people are mostly about gameplay in games, like they really care about the gameplay.
It's
and
true.
If they don't feel that the game they're playing was made with the core intention of having gameplay because it's a game and needs to have gameplay.
It's true.
But like I don't necessarily agree that a game needs to have good gameplay to be a game, but like in this case, people on Steam, gamers generally judge a game mostly by the gameplay itself.
I agree, but still, like people forget that it's a full of. So it's a game is a box of full of experiences, different experiences put together, like you mentioned, story, gameplay, etc. But there won't be a game which will have everything perfectionist, like everything like in a perfect way, made by perfectionists. Because like there are some examples then where like developers like were pushing everything to its limit, like the story, gameplay, music, everything, the setting. But it's rare, right? Because if you push your vision and it's the story or the gameplay, the other part will be lacking of that push, in my opinion. Like for example, like in your example, you don't care about the story to put into your game, which is fine in my opinion. It's totally fine. But I totally agree with you with that fly and ice cream example, and it's true. But to add to this, the ice cream is not tasting worse because of the fly flying around the ice cream. It's just shock you that it's like doesn't have the same value, but like the ice cream taste won't be different. Like, and so I got you what you have been saying, but on the other hand is like I don't feel like what I've been saying this whole time is that like the story is there, the story is good, and people who judge it, you haven't played it, you just watch it, right? And you judge it by the gameplay because you care about the gameplay. But again, is it fair in a moral way to judge something that you don't care about? That's the question. And that's the question not just about games, about our whole life. And I feel like that's the huge issue when it comes to any form of art. Like, I don't know, when that's why I always joke with this example of mine that, for example, in high school, I remember we were studying about poems and we like never really judged poems or books. We were analyzing it. And that's what I feel like people lacking of, is that like the perfect analyzation of like art forms or any piece of art is that like, yes, you have the right to express your opinion. I'm fine with that. But then be fair about it. Like have a total opinion about everything and experience it. Like, I don't know. And I can see it's killing the whole industry because like there are so many people, like you mentioned, that they are judging games by their gameplay, but they are not expecting those games because of what they are. And I think it's a huge problem because, for example, if I would be out there to put out, for example, just like you, gameplay heavy game and not adding a story, and the gameplay would take people to complete the game in around, I don't know, 100 hours, it would be so much fun. And people would be bitching about not having a story. In my opinion, it's not fair because like, fuck it, I wasn't intending to put any story into the game. Or vice versa, if I would be doing a gameplay lacking game there with just the story and dialogue boxes, like for example these like what they are called, like not cinematic experiences, but these novel games, you know, where you just have to read and click, not the point and click ones, but just the simple novel ones. They have a huge audience. Like so many people are playing it because they are interesting for them. It's like an interactive book. You're clicking it. There are arts, right, about the characters and their emotions. I think every game will find its audience. There is, in my opinion, at least I always express this opinion of mine, there is no such thing as a bad game. It's just like people are not connecting with that game, which is fine at the end of the day. Like it's true for human beings as well. I might be disliked by someone, but it's fine. Like I don't have to be liked by everyone. It's like a stupid thinking method that you would have to be loved by everyone. It would be cool, of course. I'm not saying it would be not, but it's like you have to realize at the end of the day there will be people who are not liking you and not liking your stuff, but it's fine. So it doesn't mean that it's bad. Like, does it mean? Let's reshape the question. Does it mean if somebody doesn't like me or doesn't like you or doesn't like any one of us or anyone in this world, that those people who are not like, they are bad people?
Well, I think you convinced me on this matter that, like, you know, games can't really be criticized for something they do not aim to be. like with the Golem game, I think you're making a pretty good point. That like the people are judging a story game by the merits of its gameplay instead of a story that it should be judged on. As I was said before, I haven't played the game. I know I can't talk about the actual story if it's good or bad, but like I heard that it's bad at least. But like yeah, as you were saying that it's good, so I'm going to take you on your word. Okay,
Let me know. Let me know how you felt about it.
Yeah,
Play
I
it
may
through and
even
let me
check
know.
it out.
Okay. Let
Yeah.
me know. Let me know.
But I don't agree with you saying there are no bad games. Like I don't think anyone really aims to make a bad game, but I think the game can be not of a quality you like expect. I think that people saying that the game is bad are saying that the game is not meeting some standards or is not made with love and passion and stuff, or is just a cash grab or just an asset flip. I think those are some valid cases where you can say the game is bad, but I don't think any art form in itself is bad. I just think that people comparing other games to this game can give it a rating and say that the game is bad.
True.
So
I agree. Yeah, that's how
I
people end
think-
up like saying something or someone is bad because they start comparing, which in my opinion is still not fair because we as humans are not perfect. How could we do something perfect, right? And in my opinion, we still can because our imperfection makes perfection, in my opinion. It works in a lot of cases in our life. Like people do some crazy good stuff and being, for example, a psychopath or I don't know, a serial killer. There is so many examples of this. Like people were like making perfect and fine pieces of artwork or art design in like which like were picked up by very famous museums, and they turned out to be serial killers. Like, does it take away from like the actual value of the art piece? That's a very hard question, I know, and in my opinion it doesn't. Like at the end of the day, I think like the best ideas mostly came from the worst like experiences and worst like or hardest challenges in life. And it doesn't mean that those people are, for example, a serial killer is good. It doesn't mean that. But that piece of art might be like the one of the best, right? And I think that's like you mentioned, it's very true that people start judging something by comparing, right? This comparison of like, hey, I've seen this is good, but this is not that good. Okay, but how do you compare it? Like, and why do you compare it? That's the ultimate question. Why? Because at the end of the day, this A picture or A game can be loved by a niche community. This B game or B picture can be loved by a huge audience, but it doesn't take away from each other. Like, in my opinion, it shouldn't at least, but it do. And it's sad. Like, your game shouldn't like considered as a bad game just because GTA releases next year, right? The sixth part of GTA. It doesn't mean that your game or that game is bad, right? Because of each other game has been released. So in my opinion, it's not fair. It's not fair. People tend to act like that, but it's not fair. Like,
yeah, of course, you can't say that something is bad. Like, if it's like even made bad on purpose, I think it's like every game is still kind of an art form because you're putting yourself out there with the
and
stuff
work,
you've made.
hard work, like you mentioned, hard work.
And I think you've made really is art. But I think people are justified to judge a game that is really frustrating to play, on has some promises that it made but haven't delivered on it, or
That's true.
Or the game is just poorly optimized or something like that. I think it's it comes down to the player expectations versus the game's actual reality of what it is. So if I advertise my game as an FPS roguelike vampire survivor shooter, then that's what people expect of this game.
It's true.
and they draw comparisons to other games in the genre. So, like for example, Devil Daggers, Risk of Rain and stuff like that's the game they are going to basing their review of my game off. Maybe not like Risk of Rain, because
Yeah, I
it's
understand
a
you.
huge game.
Yeah.
They kind of understand
start
that
to
I'm not
compare,
operating with this much of
Yeah.
of human power and budget. But I think they're just drawing comparisons to similar games in the genre.
Sure.
But if I advertise my game as like a story-rich, cinematic experience, an open world game, and then people play it and it's not what they expected, they
It's true.
envisioned, or like it's a watered down version of a game like GTA, for example, like like the world is open but it's really empty and there is really nothing to do and just empty and just open world just for the sake of it being open world. And I think it is safe to criticize the game for being quote unquote bad. Like it's an art form. You can criticize it, but I think at the end of the day, every game deserves attention and deserves love and the analysis. Like you analyzed the poem, like you brought up earlier.
True.
But I think you can judge a game based on the merits and what it promises to do and what it fails to deliver.
Yeah, I wasn't really saying that you cannot judge. It's just there are examples of where like it's unfair to push your very negative opinion about it. And also to add what you have been saying is that I feel like throughout the process of any development, there is a point where like people, of course, cut out something, and if it's the whole design, then it can end up having this issue, even if it's an indie game or a AAA game, where like there was a vision which was advertised, but then the developers ended up cutting that vision because like they, for example, they did not have enough money, or they, I don't know, couldn't deliver it and they had to tune it down. But I feel like since there are a lot of news about video games, and it was always like that from the start of the internet, I feel like that's how people end up having these expectations but not being able to look behind the curtain, which means is that like you mentioned, if you advertise at the very beginning that hey, it's an FPS game and it has like story in it, which is cool, but you end up like delivering an FPS game and you are developing your game for 4 years, for example, let's say that, and you realize that hey, I should probably prioritize my resources in order to make the gameplay perfectly fine and not on the story. So I might have like some like chat boxes, dialogue boxes, but that's all, and it wouldn't be like a very cool story because I'm more of a gameplay guy, like you mentioned. Then it's a choice of design and choice of like development process, right? But here comes the question: do you have to, as a developer, as a creative person, do you have to put people into your shoes in order to understand everything about your game on a daily level throughout the process of the development? In my opinion, yes and no. Yes comes from like, that's how they will end up like not misunderstand what you are making, at what your choices are. So throughout the development process, they will understand that yes, I had to like change my like way of design, and now it won't be a story heavy game, just a gameplay heavy one. And that's how they won't judge by its story, right? They of course can, but like they might not end up. And the no part is like, I feel like as a creative person, it's not your task to like, go out to the public every day, because like it would take away so much time from the actual development process itself, and also put so much pressure on you, especially those who might be very like sensitive in a mental way, and that pressure can lead to a very dark place, in my opinion. I've seen a lot of developers like having this pressure, and it's understandable because like it's weird to say, but it's true that these developers sometimes are pushed back to the corner by these like feedback and they have to decide whether it's like to listen to the players' feedback and change something that might not be even good. And I've seen it a lot of times. Like there were some multiplayer games where like people were bitching about like, hey, this gun is overpowered. This method of gameplay is very bad. For example, the best example can be Fortnite. They like took away the grenades in most of the modes. And like in most TPS and FPS multiplayer games, nades are the basic kits. Come on, man. Like, why do you take away the basic kits that was or that were always there in most of the FPS games, right? Like grenades are like, I don't know, they are like the most common gameplay elements or weapons in these shooter games, and they took it away because in build mode it was like too powerful, and those players who were like mostly like build players and not shooter players, they were bitching about it that yes, these nades are too overpowered and they are like destroying our builds that we're just building it up, right? And it's a fair criticism, but at the end of the day, the solution, in my opinion, shouldn't be taking away something, but like rather fixing it. So that's why I said that sometimes like these very negative and very criticizing opinions can push something back, and having the lack of that good feature, which is at the end of the day is good, but it's not working that out how they want it to have. So I don't know. It's hard.
Well, just to touch up on the previous subject of like, you know, the false advertising and the comparison to other games, like a good example of it is Mind's Eye, you know, that came out recently. Like it advertised itself to be, you know, kind of a GTA killer. It was like, you know, made by was like an art director or something that worked on GTA 5, I think. And like the project lead that was working on it just before the release actually stepped down from the game because like he knew that it was like, you know, not of a quality he wanted to, you know, associate with his name. So I think that is valid to criticize a game that had so much false advertising and so much broken promises. I mean, you said Cyberpunk before, you know, like Cyberpunk was a good game at its core, but it was flawed by all the, you know, problems, the bugs, all the friction that people were experiencing with the game. But the developers, you know, actually set out to make a great game. You know, there's the update 2.3, I think now. They are, you know, still rolling out those new updates that improve the game so many years after release. It's impressive, you know, like the same goes with No.
It is, but sorry for interrupting you. What was unfair about this Cyberpunk example of mine is that I remember Witcher 3 when it first got released. I was waiting for that game so much. I even bought the collector's edition for PlayStation 4. And I remember like pressing start and played. I also played the previous titles before playing Witcher 3. And in that game there were like so many game-breaking bugs, which are like the most crucial bugs in any game. Like they were stopping me from playing until this day on the PlayStation 4 version, not in the complete edition but in the simple edition. There is like this bug on PlayStation 4 that you cannot save your game. You have to manually save and it's not saving it for you. And even if you like manually save, it gets corrupted sometimes and nobody is bitching about it. There is like a Reddit post which has like 1K people like really criticizing it, but like developers haven't made anything in that regard. And I'm not blaming the developers, don't get me wrong. I'm blaming the people by being unfair to like they criticize one game for being buggy like Cyberpunk, but like Witcher comes from the same development team, CD Projekt Red. Nobody was bitching about it. Like the media didn't pick up the bitching people, and I think that's the problem. That's the huge issue, that media picks up something which is bad, but from the same developers, which is really has crucial bugs, like which stops you from playing it. They don't pick it up. because there was a different time. Like it was like, I don't know, 8 or 6 years ago. I'm not remembering when it got released first, because it had so many editions. Like Witcher 3 had like a lot of like different editions, like complete edition, DLC edition, all kinds of editions. I'm not remembering when it got released first. But like what's unfair in my opinion is that like people end up like having like this very bad and negative opinions and hateful speech about something that has some minor bugs, a lot of them in Cyberpunk, for example, but not game breaking ones. But they don't end up like criticizing something that has game breaking bugs. Is that fair?
Well,
I think no. I think no.
yeah, I mean, I agree with you, but just to, uh, why it's happening, like, because the market is becoming so competitive, there's like, so many
Exactly.
options
Exactly.
for people to choose from.
Exactly.
It's become like, really easy to like, say, oh yeah, this game is bad because like, this game is much
Exactly.
better, go play this game.
Exactly.
And
that's why I said it's
think
bad for the whole market, and it's bad for developers and games too. Because whenever it's a competition, it's like not anymore about the arts. Like for example, if you go to a museum to like sightsee there, have a sightseeing there, and watch the paintings there, I don't think that any people who appreciate art in any way, they will start to compare two paintings next to each other, even it's from the same painter or not. Because in my opinion, it's stupid. Like, why would you
that's
compare
why it's
it?
really hard to
And
get
that's
into,
art.
the
That's
art
what.
market, the
Yeah.
game dev market.
Exactly.
It's really hard to get into because, there is
Exactly.
so much choice. There is so many good games that people can play instead of yours. So you really need to. I think this is actually a good thing and a bad thing at the same time. Like
Sure,
it
I agree.
gives you encouragement to be better than the competition, but also makes your game seem worse than other games
Exactly.
compared by other people.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's really what's happening nowadays. Like when Witcher 3 came out, that was like 2013 or something.
Yeah, something like
what year
that.
was
Yeah.
that? Yeah, that like the market was not so overflowing with like
With
with so
games.
many games.
Yeah, exactly.
Like there's a
Exactly.
new game releasing like newly every day that someone is waiting for.
True, true,
Like
true.
every week we're getting a new big release, and
True.
there's so little time to actually capture the player's attention on your particular project.
True.
So you need to just show them like, wow, look at this. This is my game. You're going to have a great time with this game because a new game is coming out the next week, and
Sure.
people need to actually focus their attention on only one game.
True. That's why I don't agree, by the way, that there is a quote of like, or a saying that's like, developers should make shorter games and players should like play shorter games. I don't agree with that because I feel like there are games which deserve to be longer. Like for example, I always joke with this, but it's also true that for example a JRPG game, I don't feel like it would be fair to have a short story because most JRPGs are like 100 plus hours long, so it won't make any sense to make it less. So there are genres in which, like in my opinion, you couldn't do a shorter game by respecting players' time. And it's like again, like this quote of like, let's respect players' time because we make games for players. No, it's not true. It at the end of the day, yes, you make games for players, but at the end of the day, like you said, like making a game better than your competitors and making your games for the players might end up being a flop because you're doing that. And it's because like you want to please somebody who might not even be playing your game in any way. Like you could do anything and they won't play your game. That's why I always say this example of like, it ties up to this topic that a lot of people say that, hey, it's good that we are living in an era where like there are free to play games. Yes, it's good because like, for example, I can play with those friends of mine who cannot afford those games. But on the other hand, it's like not sustainable for a lot of developers because like when it comes to Fortnite, people of course buy skins because they are fancy. They are like, they build up this hype from year to year. But when it comes to a game like Rogue Company, it's a niche game, and it's a great game in my opinion. It's a TPS 4v4 game, but there the skins haven't sold that much, so like the developers couldn't like, you know, have a sustainable like method of getting money. And I think like that's why it's getting like to this point of like sometimes it's bad to compare yourself and to want to get better than your competitor if you put yourself into the box of a genre. Because like for example, if it's a battle royale, you will say that hey, we will release seasons, we will release skins. Yes, but what if people do not want to fuck with those skins just to play the gameplay, right? Because there are so many games where you can buy skins, and I feel like at the end of the day, people will decide where they will put their money, which means that yes, they will play Fortnite, they will play Splitgate, they will play finals, but will they pay for every game to buy skins? I think no, most of them won't. And most of them will choose, which means that, hey, why should you release a free-to-play game? In my opinion, like I said, it's good because you can play with your friends, yes. But at the end of the day, it's not sustainable for developers. And that's how a lot of developers like end up having this very like hard situation where they have to fire people from their team because of like the game is good, the game might have issues, but the game won't sustain itself because they won't be down to pay for every game for those skins or to those DLCs. And it's true to the topic of what you mentioned is that there are so many games now and people have to choose, sadly. It's not like I always joke with this, but it's also true that people are not like me and some other old school guys who play all of the games, because like you see, I'm interested in all of the games. That's why I'm talking to you as well, because I was interested in your game, but most of the people are not like that. And in my opinion, I will express it with honesty. It's sad. It's sad because like it shows how the industry from the player's perspective grew out to this such vibrant and high pool of having a lot of players, but end up having so many people who just care one game for 10 years. And it doesn't help the industry. Like, come on, it doesn't help. Like, it's not like NBA where like people care about like NBA and they will buy blind-minded or blind-eyed the tickets for every show because they care about NBA and they will watch every match, even if that's not their favorite team. It's not true for gaming. If you are a gamer and you are just, you know, this like, I don't know, starter gamer who doesn't care about games that much, you just play because you want to have a good time, it's fine, of course, but you will end up in an industry where like you have to decide. And it's fine. I'm not saying it's bad. It's just like that's how people end up like in this situation where like developers try to rely on these people, but they do not understand that these people won't help to have themselves a sustainable model. That's why I always say that most of the developers shouldn't listen to these people. They should listen to their core audience, which can help push their game towards for the future. And that's why sadly a lot of like developers shut down their game servers, for example. Like there was Multiverses. It was one of my favorite games of nowadays. I played a lot of hours with that on a competitive level. And I was so sad when they announced that for the second time, maybe forever, who knows what will happen, but they are like shutting down the servers because like not many players were playing it, and Warner Brothers probably ordered them to shut it down. And it had a big future. Like, come on, it was like when it comes to comparison, it was like a Smash killer. It really killed Smash. Like at the very beginning, it had way more players compared to Smash, and it had a bright future. It's just like, yes, it was something new, and people stick with it because of the IPs that they have, like Scooby-Doo, Bugs Bunny, and everyone. But at the end of the day, a lot of casuals like did not want to learn the game or get better, and they got alienated by those core players who got into the lobby and they kicked the hell out of these casuals. And they, of course, like were like that. Yeah, it's a fun game, but it's not for me because I cannot compete with these people. But does it mean that the game is bad? No, in my opinion. Like, you are not taking the time to learn that game. It's just like chemistry. You go to a chemistry class. Does it mean chemistry is bad since you don't want to learn chemistry? No, fuck no. Sorry, so much information. I know I can ramble forever.
Yeah, you touched upon so many topics here. I don't really know what to start with.
Yeah.
Well, let me start with the when you said that the games that you don't necessarily agree with the games becoming shorter. I think that it all depends, on the type of game you're playing. Like,
Sure.
I don't necessarily think that JRPGs need to have 100 hours of content. Like, that's the kind of industry standard of what they are, how many hours they have. But I agree with this saying that, I want shorter games with worse graphics made by people who are getting paid more to do less. Like, I really agree with this sentiment. I think that like nowadays, everyone has so little time. The world is moving so fast. We don't really have 100 hours in our life to dedicate to one game to see the end. I think it's fine if you enjoy those type of games, but I think that shorter experiences, like maybe like 3 to 8 hour games that you can beat in ranging from one sitting to 2-3 days on a weekend or something, are really the perfect time frame to play a game, unless you really get into some kind of a game. Especially with story games, I think that you don't have to artificially increase the game's length if you need to tell the story that you want to tell people. So if your story is 3 hours, you don't need to pad out the runtime, adding some random bits of information that do not necessarily go well with the base you've put up here. It needs to be. It just if the game is 3 hours, then it's 3 hours. You can't just leave a negative Steam review and saying that the game only has 3 hours. I paid $10 for it. I think the game is priced this way because the game took so much time and effort.
Agree.
If the 3 hours you put into the game are of quality time,
it might be years, right?
You're paying $10 to go to cinema, to see a 2-hour movie. Why don't you pay $10?
No, I agree with the price factor of games. Yes, and there is a very good example for this as a game called Journey, a PlayStation-only game. If you ever heard about it, it's a very artistic game, and it's just 2 or 3 hours, and it's a perfect game in my opinion. It's a perfect game.
I love the art style of Journey.
Exactly,
and
it's a very touching story without even having any dialogue in the game. It reminds people of having lost love, everything in their life, every human emotion and experience. And I feel it's very true what you have pointed out there is that yes, people judge games by its price, but it's not because they would like to do it. It's a funny thing. I talked about it a lot with my community members that there were some of them which with honesty told me that they judge games by their price because they are not willing to be honest about that they don't have money to buy it. And that's again a moral thing, right? Because people start to judge something that, hey, it's overpriced. It's way too heavy for my pocket to buy it. But the question goes, does it make the game worse for you? And a lot of people say yes. I remember when God of War released to PC, and some of my friends said that, hey, I will rather pirate the game, and I will rather not buy it because it's a bad game. They played through the whole game by having a pirated version of it. And I asked them, was it a good game? Or was it a bad game like you stated at the first time? And they've said, no, it was a very good game. I will buy it, but I didn't have the money. And I was like, see? Moral thing. And that's why I said unfair point of judging something, like you mentioned, saying that it's too overpriced. No, it's not overpriced. It's the price of the actual work. Let's switch. Let's tell these people that, hey, you should go to your 9-to-5 job and say that, hey, you would like to get less salary. Nobody will do that, right? Nobody. Yeah. So it's stupid. Why you consider something is bad because you don't have money for it and you consider it overpriced? Do the same. Go to a job and tell your boss that you would like to have less salary. Nobody will do that, right? Because they appreciate their own work. Why can't they appreciate their others' work, right?
Yeah, it's kind of this trend of seeing how much money can buy you how many hours of content.
True.
I think it is valid in some cases.
In some
like
cases, yes,
if
it
you're
could.
buying like an $80 game, you're probably expecting some level of quality from this game.
True.
And if it turns out like not to be your expectation, or it turns out to have made false promises, then I think it's totally valid to say that the game is overpriced and you should wait for a sale. But like with most games that are like the industry standard price, like for example Elden Ring, I think that's a really great game. It could have even been priced at $100 and it's still a great game.
True.
Like I love Souls games in general. I think it's just it comes down to what experience you're buying for that price. I don't really think that's fair if you price your game at $10 as an indie and then someone comes to your reviews and says that, oh, the game only has like 3 hours of content, why did you price it at $10? I expected like much more. I can buy this game and this game for $10. You have hundreds of hours of fun. Well, then don't buy the game. Again, if you don't enjoy this
thank
short
you
style game. Buy like a roguelike or something.
Game.
You can infinitely replay.
True. That's the funny thing, right? That there are so many games and people still bitch about one game and they end up like hating on a game, although they could like consume other thousands of games, right? I read a Steam sale chart about like only this year there were like, I don't know, 100,000 or even more like released games, which is crazy lot. Like you can't even consume those many games in your entire life. It's so many games, right? And that's why I don't understand that people start to bitch about just one game. Like there is always the option for you now to go and buy another game. And what's even more funny is that like there are demos on Steam, there are demos on PlayStation, there are like Game Pass, there are like PlayStation Plus, so you can actually like rent the game in an online version and try it out for yourself, and people still end up like playing with just one game and hate on it, or like not playing any game and hate on every game. Like it's weird for me. Like I feel like the more freedom of choice people are given, the more lost they will be. And it's true for not just games, but for every type of like choice of freedom. Like I remember myself, I told this this example of mine throughout the interviews that I had with other developers as well. I remember myself when attending to university, and I could like schedule my own or write my own schedule of classes. And I remember first it was like very fun, right? Because oh my god, now I will have free time. I can go back home, have a chill time, like for 2 hours. I can go back to university, I can go back again home and study and just have a good time after it and go to sleep. And after like 2 months, I realized it's not fun. Like because rather than sticking like to a 4 or 6 hour class and then go home and have the full rest of the day to chill and eat and have a shower, get some games with my friends and study and get a good sleep, I rather went there, went back home, went there again, went back home, went there again, and like repeated it 3 times. And it's 6 times, right? Going here and there. And it's so much time that it consumed for me to go there and here, which I could use as time to have a free time or to study. And that's why I say that sometimes having too much freedom of choice is not good, because people feel like they are like having everything, but they won't realize what to do with that free time. And I remember it's true for games as well. I remember myself when like my friend, after I helped him in English class at high school, he like brought me like 100 games because he was like collecting games back then. And he brought me like, I will lend you 100 games, just play those. And I was like, I couldn't decide what to play. Like, what I was doing? I like pressed start with one game on my Xbox 360. And I said, okay, let's try this game too. And let's try that game too. And let's try that game too. And I was sitting there for like the whole weekend and trying all the games, which was fun. It was a fun experience, don't get me wrong. But I haven't finished any game in 1 week. Is it good?
Yeah,
I
people
think
have
no.
like, massive Steam libraries, like, they can't really pick what they want to play.
Exactly.
Like, they have so much choice. Like,
Exactly.
that's why it's, so hard on the indie market,
True.
to like actually
To make it,
have a successful release when there is so many other great games you could
True.
invest your time or like even hundreds of hours, not
True,
only
because you
play
have
the
to
game in one
compete
sitting.
for people's time, like you mentioned. It's very true. Yeah.
Yeah, people have their like comfort games. They just launch and play indefinitely, like forever, if they don't have like anything else to play in their library.
But it's
yeah,
not true
I
for
think
most of the
it's-
people or most of the players. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. It's true for myself too that I play with so many games and I'm not finishing some of them or most of them because I don't have like the time for finishing all of them. But I'm not saying that they are bad games just because I couldn't finish them. So it's a hard topic, like I mentioned. Yeah. Very true. Okay. Is there anything that you would like to add before we go further, by the way, with our conversation?
Well, oh my gosh, I had this thought and I wanted to ask it, but like I completely fell out of my mind. Maybe I will, remember it later. Like I really forgot right now.
Oh no, it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me know. By the way, let's go to chat questions if there is or there are any chat questions, ladies and gentlemen. Question time here. So let us know if there are any questions. Hölgyek, urak, bármilyen kérdés? Any questions? Let us know. Let us know. By the way, if you're down, we can showcase some gameplay if you're down to show some stuff from your game. Let me know, and I will click on the
watch
stream button.
Open the project.
Nice. And let me know if you remember the question you wanted to tell me.
Yeah, sure.
Ladies and gentlemen, until we are waiting for the showcase of some gameplay, let us know, by the way, if you have any questions. Let us know. Feel free to let us know. Also, check out Polycube's itch.io page. There are some games that you can play, and also be on the lookout of a new game that will be released on Steam. Not sure when, not sure what's the title of the game, but probably.
Well, I don't have a title or a release date or anything really. That's why I was, really surprised that you reached out to me because, I watched some of your show episodes and you have like guests that pretty much have, something to show for themselves, some kind of a release title. They
I also had, by the way,
some
some guests who like just started out. I was also having like a music composer who was never composed any music for video games, but he would love to, and he's making his own music. There was also a guy Barkin who is making games now and studied how to make games, but he didn't have his own project back then, like a commercial project, let's say. He had some projects, but like he didn't have a commercial project. And it's so answering to your question is that like I'm always interested in any game that is out there, and even if it's just someone who is like developing games for his own and he would like to release a commercial game, because I feel like you mentioned, it's always good to give support to these people like you, and it's also interesting to me to see bright new ideas or ideas that like come from a person who is passionate about like their game. And it matters at the end of the day, because even if there are so many games releasing, in my opinion, a lot of games are not having the shine that they should deserve because like of this competition that we were talking about. Like, sadly, media is not sharing.
A ton of games.
Yeah,
I see a ton of games. Like I follow the development of on like Twitter and stuff. And they release and they like don't really make that much revenue for the developer. It really sucks, because like they put so much time and effort into making this game.
Work, passion, everything, and money, of course.
Yeah, I think like it comes down to like, really appealing to the developer audience rather than the player audience when showcasing
Yes.
your stuff.
Yes.
I think that developers most like, like each other's work,
True.
but like the actual people
It's
who
a
are
more
going to play the
connected,
game are not,
understanding community of
yeah, they're
developers.
not
Yeah.
mostly the developers, but they're
True.
the actual players,
True.
who need to purchase the game.
True.
Yeah.
True. But it's again comes from like the understanding of the actual work which is put into the craft, and I feel like that's what.
Oh yeah, I remember what I also wanted to touch upon. Yeah,
Okay, okay,
you
okay.
said that you wanted to, if it's possible, to put a player in developer's shoes. Like I don't think that's really possible. Like some people just have false like idea of how games are made. They
It's
like
true.
think, oh yeah, add multiplayer, but like they don't realize the amount of work you need to put in
Exactly.
to make a game multiplayer.
That's why I always
Like,
say
if you're
people
making
have
a game
to.
a multiplayer, yeah, you basically have to rewrite the game from scratch,
True,
or
true.
just make some really dumpster, code to
True.
make it all work. Because if you're making a multiplayer game, then you need to write everything, to that multiplayer game. Because if you're going to slap a multiplayer game later, then it's not really that efficient to do, and you're just going to end up with a lot of junk, and a lot of mess.
True. That's why I always joke with this
Yeah.
that players should
So I
start
think
making
it's
games.
important that like you run a show like this to like kind of bring players closer to developers, and it kind of gives the players the perspective of a developer of like how stuff is made and like how much effort it takes to actually produce
Thank you.
a game that's a true work of art.
Yeah, I really try to change the narrative of this whole industry because I feel like I still feel like to this day, and I don't feel like my perspective or opinion will change on this, that I feel like it's too much blame put on developers and it's not fair. Like a lot of players do not understand how much work goes into actual games. Any game, like even if it's just a 40-minute game, the actual work that could go into that is insane. It's technical work. Like it's not just, the snap of the fingers. And I feel like that's why people are not appreciating games that much anymore. Because back then when internet was not that common around people and people just consumed games and they went to the store reading magazines or went to the store like asking about any game from the shopkeeper, they ended up like being those very fanatic gamers who like really cared about games. They might not cared about how they are made, but they were so passionate about video games that they could consume any game. Of course there were likings, what they like and what they do not, but like still I feel like when the whole industry like started from scratch and began to produce video games by developers and publishers, it was a way different era because it was a niche thing to do, and that's how people appreciated games more. And nowadays, since a lot of like players play games, I always say that it became a trend in a way where like people play games, but they do not play games because they are so passionate and so fanatic about games, but they play it on a daily level or a weekly or monthly or a year level, where they end up playing it because their favorite streamer plays it, the YouTuber plays it, they heard it on TikTok, I don't know, they watched The Last of Us TV series and they were interested about the game. That's how I end up playing the game. And I'm not saying it's bad. It's good for the industry because it's more money, right? And that's how developers can make new games and sustain their lifestyle. But at the end of the day, these players will be the ones who will judge the most. Because I feel like me, as a person, I play games because I love them, and I won't be that dickhead on Steam who will say that, hey, your game sucks, go get a job, go get a 9-to-5 job. I won't do that because I appreciate the work, effort, passion, and love and tears that went into that project, even if I might not liking it. That's the best example with FIFA. I don't like FIFA games because in my opinion, those games are really cash grabs, but they are good for those people who like love playing soccer or who are fans of FIFA, and I don't judge them to play those games. I don't judge the developers making those games over and over. And I don't judge a game. It's not for me. And I won't be that dickhead person who goes to Steam and says, hey, this game sucks. No, it's not for me. And I accept it. Like, and I feel like that's that moral compass that should work in every human being, that if it's not for you, that's fine. But you don't have to be a dickhead and like ruin a person's day by like commenting that stuff that might be not even for you. And what people do not understand, that in indie market it's even worse, because it might be just a solo developer and you're ruining that mental health of the solo developer. And what people do not understand even is that like if it's a whole group of people, like a AAA company, they feel like they are judging the whole company, and they feel like that those people who are working in that huge company might not read comments. It's not true. I have spoken to people who worked in the AAA industry and they read every fucking comment because they were so passionate about their game. For example, level designers, music composers, story writers, and they were so passionate about their game when their game has released, even that they have been working, for example, in a 1,000 developer company. They still cared about those comments because the craft was their baby, basically, and they were so upset and they were so like mentally put into these dark places, dark corners in their life, that some of them even got so depressed that they had to take medicine and take like some doctor treatment, and it sucks because at the end of the day, doing art shouldn't be about this. Like it's like, I don't know, we as humans, I feel like we haven't evolved in this way, because like if you remember, like there are stories from history lessons that like these typical like people who are in art, they are not respected, and they are living without a place where to go, without a house, without any money. And it's not true now, of course, because like art is more like accepted and more like paid. But at the end of the day, people still like bitch about people who are doing art, and it's not fair. Like I always say this is not a 9-to-5 job where you like want to like have these expectations of like you are making, for example, a bread or a chair, and you shouldn't fall off the chair, right? That's the honest expectation that people will wait from a person who makes chairs. You shouldn't have any illness because you will eat a bread. That's also a fair expectation from a consumer part. But what's the fair expectation from a consumer who consumes art? Is there any fair expectation? Is there any fair expectation if you're consuming a painting or consuming a movie? It's a very hard question. Like, and I think it has never been discussed really with honesty. What's the fair expectation of those consumers of art, of any piece of art? Again, so
like we discussed before, it's mostly like the case of just comparison. Like we discussed before that, like people have some kind of a like a good painting. They can like, for example, the Mona Lisa. They can base their opinion on other painting based on this. But like, what if the painting is like an abstract or something? Like you can't really judge this painting based on this painting because it's a completely different thing, like a completely different game genre. You can't really judge the game based on the merits of another game that's completely different. Like if you enjoyed a story-rich game, you can't, criticize Balatro for not being story-rich game because it's completely
but
different.
But people do that. That's the funny thing. People do that. I have seen so many people like comparing FIFA to Last of Us. And it's stupid because yes, both games are AAA, but it doesn't mean that they are same, right? So that's why I feel like people do not understand the meaning of AAA, the meaning of indie. You cannot judge something just because of it's AAA and the other thing is AAA. Like, why? Like it's, I don't know. It's a very hard topic, and I don't want to like disgrace anyone for having their own opinion because it's not fair, I know. But still, like the misunderstanding of the actual words that people talk through their mouth and people like have an opinion about is crazy to me. Like I feel like the more we are going further in life, the more dumber are people. about these topics, and I feel like that's how they end up like having so much hate, because like it's not just that they are angry because of their real life and they put that anger onto judging and having these negative opinions, but also like with this not understanding of what they consume. It's like if you eat an ice cream, you eat it because it's like probably it will taste sweet, not like sour, or not like, I don't know, in another way. And you're eating, for example, I don't know, vegetables because you probably don't want to eat anything other, but you won't end up judging, in my opinion, anything that it's not for you. So I don't know. But it's comparison, like you said, and it's true. And it's sad. It's sad. It just makes me sad every time I see it in any way from any people. So, yeah.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Well, I can showcase the game if you want.
Yeah, let's do that.
There's nothing really much to showcase, you know.
Let's do that.
Just a prototype.
Let's do
like
that.
If you really want to see it, but it's
I'm down.
I'm telling you, it's not that good, you know.
I'm down. Let me switch to. Oh, I don't have to switch. Okay. I will.
Can you see the game?
Yeah. I do.
Can you hear the audio?
I think yes. Yes. I do. Yep.
Okay. So like the game is like wave based.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
You shoot stuff, you collect stuff, you shoot stuff some more, and then you like pick between like two upgrades. That's a new thing. I'm like working on it. It's like
love that.
I haven't showcased it yet. So like you basically pick one upgrade and then it's like, you know, applies to you. It's the balance is completely off. The orbs just, you know, scaled indefinitely, like ×2 for every level. But like, yeah, I'm trying to make the game just like really juicy at the core. So like then I can add more content to it.
I see. Are you planning to add bosses too, by the way?
Yeah, I want like a final boss at the end of like a wave and stuff.
I see. And how many waves would you like to add to your game, or you're not still sure?
Well, right now it's just, you know, indefinite. It's just, you know, going and going until you die and stuff. But like, also the enemies like, you know, are completely off. They are like, you know, just spawning. There's so many of them. I don't have a balance for that. Even like, you know, I don't have any balance for it at all.
The gameplay is crazy fast, by the way. Love it. I'm a huge fan, by the way, of those shooters which are fast. So it's crazy, and the animations too, crazy good.
Well, it's no animations really. It's just
like,
you know,
when the character is like reloading his gun and.
I mean, it's just a rotation of the gun. Like the hand doesn't even rotate. I want like, you know, to do like a cool flip and stuff. I mean, I can just, you know, die because like there's. I mean, the game is you know, it's rough. It's a prototype still, but I think like the core of the gameplay is there. You can like, you know, tell that it's a game. It's definitely a game. And like I try to make all the player actions really, you know, pop on screen, really feel like they're like, you know, like you're having a lot of feedback. So yeah, just a lot of juice, just a lot of, you know, animations, camera shake and stuff. You can also like stomp on guys and
I see. Yeah.
You know,
can
stay in there and yeah. You can also like slash with your melee, you know, if you don't got the knife thrown out. So yeah, that's it pretty much. Like I don't really have any.
No, it's cool, man. It's cool.
Showcase,
like I remember when I first saw it, it's like crazy. I'm still wondering, by the way, why the setting is in a like, what is it called? I cannot recall the name. There are candles and there is like evil, you know. What's the word in English for it? Like when they start to, they would like to like let me Google this word. My bad.
like the story is not really set, but I just want something really vague. Like I could travel to like a hell or something and battle through like waves of bugs because I want the enemies
summon
to
a
be.
ghost summoning, yeah. Yeah. It's like a ghost summoning because there are candles, you know, and there is like a symbol in the middle. So it
Yeah, I
reminded me
had
of-
like previously items appear in the middle to like kind of you select it after each wave, but now I removed the wave system because like you just pick up those orbs and stuff, so there's no more money.
Will that be a leaderboard thing, kind of thing in the game, by the way, between players?
Yeah, there is just I want some kind of like a leaderboard. I want the game to go on indefinitely. Like it's not a great game, it's just a little.
Don't
project
say
I'm
that.
working
Like
on,
the
that's-
gameplay is crazy good. Are you planning?
That's why I was wondering why you invited me.
No. The gameplay is crazy good. Like I said, I play games for every game for a different reason. I'm that person who loves story but who loves gameplay too. And this is a very gameplay heavy game, which I respect. And what I wanted to ask is that like you mentioned that there will be different waves, but what about like the maps? Like, will it be the same map over and over, or like are you planning to have like different?
Well, I thought of making like different vertical maps, because there's a lot of vertical potential. You can like do like a knife boost and then recall and stuff, or like jump off on of an enemy, and then do the knife boost and stuff. But like then the enemy AI would be really complex to pull off. Like I wanted to have enemies as bugs, kind of like crawl on walls and reach you, but like that's super like not only complex, and I tried doing that and it really sucked, but it's also really taxing on like on the performance and stuff. It's like you really need to check surroundings of every bug on every frame. It's really not the best thing I would like do performance wise.
I see.
So like for now I'm just stuck with this flat arena. I can tell everyone that's based off devil daggers and made like this on purpose, but like really I would like to have a vertical arena, but I just can't do it.
Hopefully in the future, yeah.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
Well, there's just a lot of enemies spawning randomly because, as I said before, I don't really have any system for it in place.
Yeah, you
yet.
mentioned that. Yeah. What about the platforms of choice, by the way? What platforms would you like to release your game on? Because I'm sure that Steam.
Well, yeah, I would just do Steam, maybe Epic Games if they accept that. I don't know what are their policy on accepting games. I think they accept games of quality in their terms of service. It says that, but I don't really know what's the process of applying it. On Steam, I know that it's really straightforward. You just pay the fee and you get your game up. But on Epic Games, I don't know how's that. So yeah, I will just target mainly Windows and Linux. I don't think this game is really going anywhere crazy. It's going to be totally free. I'm making it just as a little passion project.
Okay.
As a little portfolio piece.
You're underpricing your game now.
Yeah.
We talked about this topic, but you end up underpricing it.
I just saw there's a demand for a game like this because I saw this little game on Steam. It's called Dust and Aliens. It's a really, let's just not say a best quality game, but it's really similar in gameplay to this. And it's also free, so I thought hey, if they made that game free and it's kinda successful, it has over 100 reviews or something, then let me just make something similar because there's a demand for it. And I just started making this. At first it was supposed to be a parkour melee game where you had a glider and stuff and you glided around a town and stuff, but I quickly threw it away because that was too ambitious. Maybe in the future, maybe one day, but for now it's just too ambitious for me.
Love that. I hope your game will go big, by the way. It has the potential in my opinion, so yeah. Yeah. Thank you, by the way, for sharing, and thanks for sharing exclusive footage too, because you mentioned that there was some new.
Well, that's some exclusive footage. I haven't posted it yet, so enjoy. This is some.
Thank you. I appreciate it. No, yeah. I really do. A question, by the way, that I forgot to ask is that it would touch again the more personal ground of questions, how have you changed as a person in other territories of your own life by being a game developer for 3 years, like you mentioned, that you were making game for 3 years now or even more? Were there any changes because of this lifestyle of yours that you started making games? And if your answer is yes, what examples could you name?
I just think that I don't nothing much really changed.
Okay,
I just think I have a really cool hobby that when I come from school. Like I mean, right now I got summer break. But like normally when I come from school, I just have this thing I can come back to and enjoy making because I truly enjoy making games. It's really fun. Like when I just have nothing to do, that's like the best thing I can.
Love it, love it, love it.
Like it's a really fun thing. You can have as your comfort hobby kinda. Just as people have their comfort games, I'm just kinda going back to this project over and over, and it's really fun seeing it evolve. Like I have some really old footage on my Twitter of how it started out, and like seeing that and what's become of it now, I can confidently say that I'm really proud of my progress, and it's really motivating to keep going and to having such a drastic change of it. It's really fun to see look back.
Very true, very true. Can you see yourself, by the way, as having this as a career, not just a hobby and a passion?
Well, I would love to, live the indie dream, making games like every year or two, living off of that, and then make another one. But like that's a really tough thing to pull off. Like that's a really vivid dream of mine.
I hope you won't give up, though. I can tell you have the talent for it. That's why I reached out to you.
Well, thank you. Like I would mostly what I'm aiming with this game is to kind of build myself a portfolio of games to maybe get a job in this industry. I hope it will be impressive enough combined with my other projects and stuff I've made in the past to kind of land me a job or an internship somewhere, because I would really love to do an internship somewhere to
I have something in my mind about that, but I will tell you about it
to kind of see how the industry works. If I really want
to, I totally agree with you on that.
Yeah, like I definitely don't want to stick with a big corporate AAA studio. Like that's really soul crushing. That will drain you really fast. So preferably some kind of a small indie studio, but that's really hard to find. Like those studios are really mostly consist of like friends and stuff. Or like I would also like to maybe do some like contract work. Contract work is really also fun to do at like a semi big indie or like AA studio. That would be also really fun. So yeah, I really look forward to this being my future, but like for now, I just don't see it as an option. Like I would love to, as I said, have the indie dream, living and making.
I'm sure you will make it because you have cool ideas and you are passionate about it. I can tell it. So yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
But like that's a really small percentage of people that actually pull that off and can. Yeah, sustain themselves.
It's again about like the lack of like media having promotions and news and indie games are accepted and are cherished but not picked up by the media. It's also a funny topic which I don't want to go in because we would be sitting here
in
forever.
2024, Little Company was in the top 10 of earners on Steam in general.
Yes, but there are a lot
indie games are really breaking into the
exactly. I'm not saying they are not, but it's like
earners.
As you mentioned, Little Company. There are a lot of games like Little Company which are even better in my opinion if we start to compare to Little Company there was a game similar to that game called I'm not sure what it's called, but like it was a 4-player co-op game, and the heroes of those games were photographers, and they had to photograph all kinds of monsters before they die and get back to the chopper in the streets of New York, and it's a really fun experience. It's a more core objective based little company game, in my opinion. There is also a game called Kletka, where there is just for the audience to know about that game, if they might not heard about it, it's like 100 level game where like there is a elevator or lift, which can eat you, right? And you have to like always feed the elevator or lift, and there are monsters to fight, weapons to find in order to defend yourself and fight against the enemies. So it's a very gameplay heavy and also like lore rich game. And in my opinion, that game did not get that promotion that it would need. A lot of streamers picked it up, and it was a successful game, and it is still a successful game. But I remember like that's not that much like big journalist companies picked it up, and it's sad because like I said before, is that like a lot of media outlets speak about how indie games are great, but we still do not see that many indie game reviews, right? From IGN or GameSpot or Kotaku or Game Informer. And it's weird because like, how to say
No, I think that the indie games leveled up from like being like, you know, something weird, a really like, you know, niche, hardcore gamer audience enjoys.
Yeah, but
and it's made like, you know, by like one guy in the basement, and they like, you know, become a lot more mainstream. Also on the like little company clones you mentioned, like they're not really clones,
they're not really clones, because
little
I think
company that, like, you know, in
they just lay off the ground for these games. Yeah, exactly.
Like it kind of kicked off the,
and they like separated
friends different. But like I don't really agree with that. Like it's just a fun co-op experience where you and your friends are working towards like, you know, one similar objective.
Exactly.
And it's really fun idea, you know. There is a
no, I wasn't saying it's not
up.
Good. It's good. It's just I said that it really laid the grounds to do these games that had like different ideas, and I feel like that's why I feel like that there could be even more of these kinds of games which can define a genre. It's very hard. It's very hard because like I feel like there is a quote for this that all ideas have been laid down so far by people, and it's like impossible to make new ideas. I don't believe in it. Like I feel like there will be forever always a person who will be able to make new ideas. It's just getting harder because of the competition and the fact that I feel like people are a bit still scared to have new ideas, as they end up like, as the more competitive and more like common it becomes to like make games. I feel like even if that developers will stick to their own vision for their like ideas of story or gameplay, they still will end up like sometimes wants to please the players, which is fine. But that's how people are like scared sometimes to deliver their very first and big idea. And that's why sometimes I feel like not for all the developers it's true this advice of like start small, because there are like a lot of developers who started big with their biggest ideas and they made it, like Balatro. And so yeah, I feel like it's different for all the people, and I think that's why you cannot like, you know, put every people or every developer, every player into just one box and judge by that box. But you really have to see the human soul behind it and talk with those human souls, right, on a human level, rather than just, you know, put everyone into one box and say that, hey, they are gamers, they are developers. No, it's not. It's just people who have different motives and different like influences behind their back and behind those games, which is great.
I think people, you know, really enjoy indie games because they have the courage to experiment.
They have,
like, unlike,
they do have
AAA games.
They do have, yes. But the more we will move forward
in life,
AAA
games, they, you know, stick to like a schedule, and like they have a set game idea that has done well.
I'm sure that it's not bad. It's just people tend to think that it's bad. Like like I said before, the more you, I had this conversation with one developer who told me this, that he believes that the more you are in a box, the more creative you will be. It means that the more
Oh
limits you
yeah,
have,
absolutely.
you
Like
will have
that's
like,
literally what like game jams are. Like you
yes,
have a
yes,
theme
exactly,
and you are
exactly.
limited,
Yeah,
and by this
yeah,
limitation, you
yeah,
need
because you
to kind
exactly
of
know what tools you
work
can
your way
use. Yeah,
around.
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And the more time and the more
That's why
money you
like
will
indie
have.
games with smaller budgets need to like find a way
True,
to compensate for that. For
true,
like example,
true,
the
true.
PS1 retro art style,
Graphics, yeah, yeah,
that came back
yeah.
because of the budget, constraint.
True,
Constraints are generally a really fun thing. That's why I love game jams. They really make you like you think outside of the box. They really make you hone in on like this one specific
true,
mechanic, and you have, in this case, limited amount of time to do this game. So you have to really work your way around and do something really unique and fun to fit in this,
very
time
true,
period and this theme. So
very
that's
true,
why it's really really fun. Limitation is definitely the main source for creativity in
true,
indie games.
true, 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 very true. Thank you, by the way. Thank you. We touched here a
Well,
lot of
thank you.
topics. We touched here a lot of topics. Have you remembering the question you wanted to ask me, by the way?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
that's why I asked it.
Oh, okay,
Like,
okay,
I
okay.
mean, about the developer
Oh, okay,
putting
okay,
care
okay,
in the
okay, okay,
developer
okay,
shoes.
okay. I thought that there is an additional question. Okay, sorry, sorry, sorry.
Uh,
Okay. Is there any topic that you would like to touch or talk about that we haven't touched, maybe?
well, I think we exhausted really everything.
Yeah,
You talked
a
about
lot of
everything.
things. Yeah, yeah, true, 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 true,
The
true,
whole industry, really. Yeah.
true. Okay, okay.
It was really fun. I really enjoyed this one.
Thank you. Me too. Before,
It was really nice talking to you. A really cool debate. I really like that. Yeah.
thank you. Me too. Me too. And thank you that you gave your time to me. Like I said, I will need some more of your minutes of stream. But before we end this episode of my Dev Live show, there is an extra question to you. So you mentioned that you would like to go forward with your games, put your games out there, and even work for other companies. But my ultimate ending question would be, what would you prefer more, working for another company or working on your very own games with your own vision, your own creativity, not limited by other people who like might tell you what to do? What
I mean,
would
the,
you
the answer
prefer?
is obvious, because everyone wants to work on their own.
Okay.
But the problem here is that it's hard to pull off, to
Sure.
have yourself work on
Sure,
your own.
sure, sure.
I think every developer would like to, have a hardcore audience of niche players that enjoy their games, but a really, as I said, a really tough market to, break into, to actually live the indie dev dream that everyone really, craves and really everyone wants to live. So, I mean, it's a really question of not if you would like to. It's a question like how could you achieve this?
And can you
because
make it?
I
Yeah.
think everyone would like to work on their own schedule, make their own time and work on a project they actually enjoy instead of some big game everyone contributes like a 1/10 of a percentage to actually completing.
True. But I think at the end of the day, it's magic too, because like in a good way, because like I said, I'm always trying to defend AAA games as well in a way that, like, if you think of how hard it is to work with others
Oh yeah,
on a
like
human
manage a
level,
team of
yeah,
like thousands of people.
It's a magic, it's a
all
miracle
like
when it
committing to like
comes
this
together.
one big
Exactly,
project. That's
exactly.
crazy.
That's crazy if you think about that. That's how good of a game designer and how good of a boss someone has to be to pull that off, to manage all those people working together on for so many years with so many different talents, backgrounds, knowledge, and still make a complete game, even if it has bugs, even if it's like not what players expected. Sorry. It's still like a miracle to me, because like whenever you like put more and more people to a group, it will start to like differ from each people, and it will start, all people will start to pull or push to their own objective and own like thinking and own motive, and I feel like that's what's the hardest about AAA companies, is that to put all these people into one project and say that, hey, you have to focus, you have to lock in, all together, all connected. And I think it's insane. For me, it's a miracle, I can tell you. For me, it's like I have my own community, and I know how hard it is when you have to, like, for example, I organized Twitch meetups with my community, and how hard for the first time it was, like, to organize it. Everyone's there on time. Everyone, for example, if we went to a cinema or abroad or any places that we need to pay for, how to organize it, that everyone has his own money to pay for it, And these might be heard as small things, but they are not small things, right? They are real life issues, and you have to manage these people. And I feel like it's just, a meetup, Twitch meetup with my friends. What about if it's a work, right? To manage people working together in a company, have a successful project or just a project. It's crazy. It's crazy, man. It's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I feel like, contract work is really becoming popular,
Sure.
like studios really license stuff,
Sure.
make you do some stuff and then have a small group of, actual developers implement that. So that's like why Expedition 33 had so much, contractors, but an actual small team of like 33 people. But like when you actually include all the contractors, like 500 people, working on that game. So I think that's becoming more, It's like that. I think that's becoming a lot more popular nowadays,
Sure.
To have a smaller team of trusted developers and having contractors that provide you with some additional help.
And they can always reshape for the core vision. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Thank you, by the way. Thank you for showcasing your game, and for talking with honesty, and that you changed your mind, because like I remember you told me that you will have to think about this interview, but I'm so happy that you changed your mind and you were down to be part of it.
I might even try Golem,
Okay. Let me know how it turned out for you.
Okay.
And thanks everyone who joined us for today's episode of my Dev Life show. Be on the lookout for Polycube's game on Steam, and hopefully even more games that he will be working on. Also check out his itch.io page. And yeah, thank you, Polycube, that you joined us for today's episode of my Dev Life show. Like I said before, I will need some more of your time off stream, but for those who are watching us live or will be watching back the VOD version on Twitch or on YouTube at a later date, and the edited version with intro, outro, and additional gameplay segments, the games that we talk about, have a great day and evening, depending where you live. Thanks everyone who joined us. Bye-bye.
Well, yeah, thank you for noticing my work. That really means a lot, that you reached out to me. Really, gives me a lot of motivation that actual people are interested in what I do, and that it brings others joy to see what I do. And I receive so many DMs asking like, when's the game coming out, like where can I play it?
I hope
it's really heartwarming. And yeah, it's really crazy to me, because I thought it's like a little project I'm making, but people actually seem to care about it. So thank you to everyone who likes my stuff, replies to my stuff. Thank you.
Thank you so much for those kind words. Thank you, and bye everyone.